so much for coming at relatively short notice. There's been a lot going on in Parkhurst in the last couple of months, and we thought it a good idea just to an update and let you know where we're standing on two of the key things that are happening in our community at the moment. So tonight we've just got two main things on the agenda. Firstly, we've got an update from Vumatel in terms of what they're doing, their rollout, how it's been going, changes to the plans that I think will yield even more efficient service than we've already seen. And then we'll be getting some information on the ISPs and the actual use of the fibre that's been put in. And then we'll be moving on to the whole issue of safety and security and those sorts of things, and explain this new thing called SafeParks. And I think there's been quite a bit of confusion. There are legacy issues around ParkSafe, there are legacy issues around security in this neighborhood. And please just, be comfortable in the fact that this is a new venture. It's not just, a new name for a well-established entity. This is a substantial change from what we've had in the past. And I think that we are using the building blocks of some excellent services that have happened in the past, and we're taking those up to a new level. So without any further ado, sorry, I did see a question. Okay, sorry. But I'm going to hand you over to Neil now, and we'll be sure to, I'll go to the back and ask them to. Bye. Sorry, Neil.
Okay, good evening everyone. Can you hear me? I think we stood here, when was it then? In June sometime, mid-June, latest June, where we discussed the project for the first time. We've been running now for, 150 days in your area, and I'm probably one of the most hated men in the suburb at the moment. But I think it was really opportune for us to actually get together tonight, because I think we've been through the darkest phase of the project now. Remember, we reminded you that it will be tough, but we're sort of seeing light at the end of the tunnel, proverbially and figuratively. And I thought it'd just be good to catch up, give you an opportunity to, to throw questions out there. Also for us, also the lessons that we've learned, to communicate that with you, how we can improve, and really just to be here and to, in our approach of just being transparent, just talk to you and see what the issues are, and maybe we can do things better, and also for you to understand what we're attempting to do. If you have any specific issues, maybe around your property, on the verge outside your house or something, we're not going to address them here. Giorgio is here, our resident whisperer, as we call him, and liaison, as you know him. So you can really, if you've got any specific issues, Giorgio's sitting there in the front corner. Really, it's a good time now to just, and you'll scribble it down, and we'll send somebody out tomorrow and try and address it for you immediately. Okay. So we're not going to try and address a specific, on the corner of 4th and 8th, or whatever the case may be, we'll be here all night. So for the guys of you that maybe not aware, and just to remind ourselves why we're doing this, there's basically two reasons. The one is world-class broadband, which I believe we are delivering to you. Some of the first homes have been connected, and that is absolutely awesome. And then obviously security. And you'll hear about the initiatives that's happening in your community. But remember, all of these initiatives are now supported with a fibre that is actually deployed within your community, so that the CCTV project can really get off the ground. You can have high definition CCTV, so you can actually do facial recognition, number plate recognition. There's so many benefits that you can have as part of this technology in your security initiative in the community. So I just wanted to remind us why we are doing this. So where are we at the moment? So you would have seen a lot of digging going around in the area, and you think, around where? Why are they digging here and then there, etc. So it looks like it's a mismatch of where it happens. But one of the key things we had to do is, if you can recall, we have a loop that goes throughout the area, which effectively is a ring, which brings back all of the fibre back to here into Parkhurst Primary. So that main loop needed to be completed. So there's sort of 2 or 3 sections to it, but the main part of that is now complete. We've got the distribution node here in the old boiler room, and it's really great to open up that boiler room, and we still have coal in there, and the old boilers here back in Parkhurst Primary. So in there is a whole bunch of sexy equipment. It's all in there. Back in Parklands, in the data center, where all the service providers are, all of that equipment and everything is in. And the fiber is now running from the street into Parkhurst Primary, all the way back to Rosebank, where the service providers are interconnected. Okay, so that's the main key initial objective which we had to do. We had to get the whole stem of this flower, or this tree, to get there, and now we can do out the branches and effectively get to the homes. The first 10 blocks, this construction has been completed, okay, but they have not been reinstated completely yet, and I'll explain to you a little bit later what that means. And the first homes have been connected with up to 1 gigabit per second. You know how fast that is? It is just awesome. Ryan Beach, the proof of concept block guys, they are just, I don't think they're leaving their homes at the moment. It is wonderful. It's wonderful to see. That is, it's very difficult to explain. Next time when we meet, Parkhurst Primary will be up, and I'll show you what that means. It's more than 250 times faster than what you get on average in South Africa. And if you look at Parkhurst, you get on average just about 1 megabit per second in Parkhurst. So it is a gazillion times faster than that. We have 7 service providers connecting. Remember when we met the first time? This was all a intellectual exercise to say, okay, we believe they will come, and they are coming. I'll show you a little bit of the offerings, etc. And that is very encouraging, that you can have choice. Remember, we sold you choice. It's open access. You can get all the service providers to come. You'll have a diverse range of services. So that's all starting to materialize. So all in all, if you look over the first 150 days, yes, it's been extremely painful. Trust me, we're not getting a lot of sleep at the moment. But I think all things being equal, we said the first homes will be connected by the last week of October, and it has been. Okay. So I think that's pretty cool. So what's happening next? Currently, the next 9 blocks are under construction. We sort of build them in sort of blocks of 10 or 9 or 11 at a time, logical blocks, or number of blocks. We're busy reinstating the phase 1, the blocks that's been completed. We're testing the service with the service providers. Currently, with the proof of concept customers that we've provided the service to. You must understand that it's a new model which we're working with the service providers. There's a lot of technical stuff that happens in the background to make sure that they can recognize you as a user. How do they deal with CAPT? How do we get the banking details to you? Does the routers work? You know, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen for the first time, and with a number of service providers. Service providers that are here tonight, they've been very, very helpful to make sure we all learn through this journey and to make sure that it is a reality. We have open applications for installations from the wall boxes, which you've seen, the little grey boxes on the walls, into the home. So if you've got a grey wall box, you can already order your installation, and we can book a time slot for somebody to bring the fiber into your home. Next week, we should have the customer portal available and the testing to be done by the service providers. It's probably going to be towards the back end of next week, where customers can sign up. The ones that's obviously now got the home installation and can sign up for services with the different service providers. And in effect, then we are, as a community, live. Everything is working as intended, we hope. But you know, we have service providers, we put fiber into the home, it all works, the installation has been done, everything is done. Now we need to just deploy it throughout the community. So basically a cookie cutter type of approach that we need to do. So there's a lot of little things that had to be put in place in order to get to this particular point. But after this sort of next couple of weeks, we should be able to just replicate. Block, 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 block. So a lot of stuff's been going on in the background, and we really appreciate your patience and understanding throughout this project, because I can understand it does probably spoil your morning when you drive out your driveway and you see this, just this stuff outside your house. Okay, so construction is continuing then at 10 blocks every 2 weeks, sort of complete. We do 10 at a time, completes, and then there's a break over Christmas. So from around, I think the 12th, somewhere around there, we're not allowed to construct anymore because the JRA and the services are not available if we hit services. And then it starts second week in January, we continue with the construction. We'll still do in-home installations, obviously from the wall box into the home over that period, maybe just up to the week before Christmas and so on. So that's where we're at the moment. We have learned a huge number of lessons, and a lot of small ones, but there's probably 3 or 4 main ones that we've learned. First thing, verges and vegetation. We always knew this is going to be tricky. Oh boy. The diversity that you have in Parkhurst, if you compare yourself right through Parkview, Greenside, Emerentia, etc., and just compare for a moment, because I think we don't always realize how diverse you are here in Parkhurst compared to other communities, which has got more just a tar strip down the walkway on the side. So everybody's sort of spilled out on the road verges. So here we have a lot of challenges. Obviously, the driveways are all diverse, different tiles, different bricks. They get broken. We go and source them. We fix them. We have jasmine that we kill in the process. We try and recover that, but we don't get the same size as what it was. So what we did was initially we actually asked the civil contractors to do the reinstatement, to do the fixing. Okay? And we've realized that that really doesn't, we need specialists. So we've appointed a whole bunch of pavers, garden services, irrigation specialists for any stuff that needs to be reinstated. And when I talk a little bit later about how the process works, you'll understand, because at some stage you think, my word, they're gone, and look at how it looks. Okay. That's because we've got different teams doing different things at different stages. The other big thing which we've learned, which is probably the most controversial, is the sequence of deployment. When we started out to the Corral, we thought that if we work in 10 blocks at the same time, it's going to be really disruptive in a very contained space in the community. So let's take 10 blocks, so we disperse effectively all the activity across the area. And in reality, what that turned out to be, it didn't really help us in terms of the disruption. It really just made our lives extremely complicated to run 10 projects across the whole community. Something happens there, the PM needs to be there, it really became complex. And then we thought we were at the time and we were absolutely stupid. So what we've decided to do is to change the deployment schedule more into a sort of logical 10 blocks, 10 blocks, 10 blocks next to each other, rather than the sort of diffuse type of approach. And there's been a new deployment schedule published. I hope you've all seen it. If you haven't, I can show it to you. Let's bring it up. You should be able to see. Okay, it's maybe not very clear for you. All the green blocks are not still done. Okay? So the roots, the red roots are still the loop that needs to be completed. The green roots are the loops that's already done and live. And effectively what we're doing is doing all the orange blocks, for example, at the moment. And then they're going to be completed by the end of this week. The construction part, not the reinstatement part. And then we'll move on to the blue blocks. We'll move on to the red blocks on the left, and so on. Okay, so the deployment schedule is available for you all to have a look at, but you might be impacted with your neighbors for a 4-week period. 2 weeks we'll build, but little bits before, little bits after, and at one time. So some of you might have been in phase 2 or 3 that now might sit in phase 4 or 5. Okay? And unfortunately, I really love to stick to the original schedule, but for us to make the schedule, it is unfortunately the only way in which we can do it. The guys that's now moved up to phase 2, you can pay me my fee later. But yeah, so really, if you have any concerns, then you're always welcome to come talk to us. Come to the shop, we're always there, even on Saturdays. Now we can discuss it. But I think for us to make the deadline and not to have the disruption all over the community, this is unfortunately the only way we see to do it, and we apologize if we've set expectations which we now change. Any comments on that? Questions? Yes. Yes.
Your green intentions, the fixing plans, the cash last year, when you finish up and the telecom starts later and mess things up, and they will never fix anything that they never do. How are we going to deal with all of this?
If the way it works is we both have got telecoms licenses and wayleaves that gives us the right to trench. Okay? As part of our conditions of the wayleaves that we have with the JRA, which effectively live afterwards, we have to reinstate it to a similar, if not better, condition than it was before. The recourse for, as part of that wayleave process, we need to give a year guarantee on the work that we've done. After that, it falls onto the JRA. And obviously, we can't fulfill our obligations. I can't speak on telecoms. I can't speak on anybody else's behalf. And the process is, it then doesn't satisfy the, they don't fulfill the obligations. The cause of action that we have is to approach the JRA, and they need to sort that out with telecoms. Yes. Telcoms, telephone poles, we're not allowed to use those. Okay. And it's not clear, they'll tell you what, at some stage, what they actually do. And it's not entirely clear, so it looks like it's only all corporates. Maybe there's a big flag for it to come everywhere, eventually. But I can't speak on their behalf. Now, unfortunately, we can't do the telephone pole. So you might find guys on a Sunday morning on your roof, as has happened, installing fiber, but they have a right of way. Just in your information, they have a certain right of way in order to access your property, even though it's very discount for you to find somewhere on your property. Technically, they're right. One of the things we've learned is that the process of construction is not clear to the residents, and that's our fault. We haven't communicated that quite well. You will find we trench, and then the next moment it looks like there's nobody there, like tumbleweed. Okay? And you think, oh my word, they're going to leave it like this. And then, hey, there's guys turning up, and they're doing some stuff, and then they disappear, and then... So there's a process that we go through, which I'll show you now. So that you understand, don't fear, it's not done. If it doesn't look done, it's not done. Okay, that's sort of the principle. One of the other things which we've done is we've made some architectural changes so that we can close trenches earlier. Originally, we would open up a trench all the way around the block, or nearly all the way around the block, and then lay the fiber into that trench. The problem is, you have to have the whole trench open before you can put the fiber in. Okay, the original architecture. So now we have a problem with a big piece of granite in the one corner, which we do have. There's some granite down here in the bottom section. Therefore, the whole trench needs to stay open until all the issues around the block has been resolved. So we've now decided to put in more duct. So we're putting effectively a duct and close up and close up and close up and close up. So if we have an issue, we can close up and leave only the section open where there is a problem until we've resolved that, put the duct in, and then I can pull the fiber through the duct rather than just direct bury the fiber. It's just an architectural change, but it's to help alleviate your lives and not to have the trenches open as long as possible. So the process is we do preparation. When we get to a block, we obviously construct, which is basically the civil part, digging the trench, getting everything ready. Then we put the fiber in, and then we reinstate. So to give you a feel of preparation, you'll see the pink Crazy color street poles go up in advance of construction. You'll see little holes being dug. You know? You think, why are they there? They are there to identify other services. And yes, we have hit power, but the last week's power outages were not us. So it's in order to identify those services so we don't have these type of challenges because nobody knows actually in these old suburbs where this stuff. Okay. We scan and we do the road crossings, so we drill under the roads. You'll see we've only got 2 road crossings, I think, at the moment. The rest is all drilled underneath the road, so we don't cut the roads up. And that takes about 1 week. Then we start to do construction. You'll see on the corners there's manhole, these big things going in. We're putting up some street cabinets. We drill underneath some driveways where it's a complex driveway. We open up driveways, close it as quickly as possible so you can get in and out of your properties. Okay? Then we put in the ducts, then we close it up. So that's a civil part, and that takes about 2 weeks. Okay. And that's where people normally think, oh my word, they are done. And they've gone. Another team, as I said, is doing the reinstatement. This is the civils contractors, then there's the reinstatement contractors that come in. Then there's sort of a week where it looks to you like nothing is happening. But that's when we pull the fiber through those manholes, through the ducts, we splice it up, we test it, etc. So that's what's happening, but it doesn't look like anything is happening physically on the ground. And then we do reinstatement, where we first fix the driveways, then the vegetation, and then the rest. It's sort of a sequence which we do. And it's sort of an iterative process. Think of building in your home. Get the builder in, man, this is not fixed. Look at this cornish, you know. And we have this snag list, sign off process, go back, sign off process, go back. So as of yet, we haven't signed off. Okay. Not really public knowledge. We're testing it, we're seeing if the technology works, but that is what fiber is for, in addition to the data. Okay? This enables suddenly a whole bunch of other stuff for you. The smart village type of offering, we also have security that's plugged into sort of a setup box. There's a whole bunch of extra bits that you can add on. Some of the providers are also providing, like Guardian Eye, your boxes, CCTV, personal CCTV products, etc. that now can work. So this is going to evolve very rapidly over the next 6 months as we deploy. But so far the prices are as follows, and I need to just give you health warnings. I think Cool Ideas is releasing, where's Paul? Yeah, it's also releasing their prices updated in the next week, dare I say. So at the bottom end of the range in terms of price at the moment, and this is my broadband analysis, not mine, you would now be able to get 4 megs, and it's 4 megs. When it says 4 megs, it's 4 megs. Remember, not this up to malarkey. With 10 gigabits of data for 199. Okay, all up. Okay. That is nearly what you pay today just for your telephone line rent. You get a proper 4 meg service. I do hope you don't all take the 4 meg service because it gives the line line free. It's terrible. It's going to be terrible. You need to, in order to deploy it over the fiber, it needs to be the ISPs that has come has tested their technology, we've reached the commercial agreements, and they've connected with us in Jig. So if your ISP is not there yet at the moment, you either have to wait, I suppose, if you want to only be served by them and continue on ADSL, or you need to shift to one of the new ones. We're talking to a lot of other ISPs, I'll let you know, but I cannot see that any of them is going to come in the next month or so. I don't see them coming before Christmas. We have to do a lot of testing, etc. So up until Christmas, this is sort of my view on what you would have as your available range. Yes. Yes, you can. Yeah, I mean, you can just anywhere as well. I mean, you've got those choices, but it's a potentially a different router that they'll supply you. You know, you can switch backwards and forwards. And some of these services, and most of them are also month to month rather than long-term contracts. So you can chop and change. I'll show you. And so it goes up to, for example, box on a 4 meg line at 150 gigabits of data, 449, but then you get other stuff with it, like phone and so on. So there's all kinds. I don't want to punt any specific products here. This is the marketplace we create. The service providers need to sell to you and convince you of the services and offerings that they have. We don't have any preference. This is what we say. It's an open playing field, open access. Now they need to serve you as the customers. Okay.
May I interject just one minute? I think the very important thing is that we need to make our service offering better, so that if we've got an ISP that we want to use, or if we think that a service offering is not good enough, it's incumbent upon us to phone our service providers and say, it isn't good enough, we want something better. For ourselves, it's going to roll out elsewhere as well. But we really need to take ownership of this as well and nag and bully and do all of those.
Or go with your wallet. Go to the ones that give you the service that you think is the right service. And that's the easiest way to change behavior. Up to 50 meg accounts, we can go from the one end from about 99 up to $2,000. We have got uncapped services. Cheapest uncapped service is 1299. 50 megabits of data. Oh, sorry, 50 megs speed.
Why is there such a big jump?
Between what, the 4 and the 50? Yes. That is my fault, that's not the service providers. So we thought that if we want to use fiber, the purpose of fiber is high speed. To offer it at ADSL style pace really defeats the purpose. I'm just replacing the copper with fiber. It really doesn't bring value to the consumer. But we are aware that they're price sensitive. So therefore we said we'll do the 4 meg line for free just so that at the entry level people can have it. But we need to make fiber fit its purpose, and therefore we start at 50 megabit per second. And therefore, if you go and have a look at the 50 meg service compared to a 20 meg service or a 10 meg service now, if you really take all the costs into consideration, you'll see it's pretty comparable to what that is. And that's what we try to do, is to give fiber at ADSL prices, but give you the speed of the fiber. Otherwise, people are going to say, oh no, is it the same as VDSL? And it's not. It's not the same at all. It's just, unfortunately, you measure it the same way in speed. And that we said, okay, now we need to leap forward here rather than just effectively trying to compete with copper on their speeds. So that is our decision. Yes, I'm under pressure. People are saying, why don't you give me a 10 or 20 or 40 or whatever the case may be. But at the moment, we're just sort of fighting the bullet and trying to squeeze through this gap. But we'll see. I mean, we're learning as well. But that's the purpose of what we're trying to do. Give you fiber speed, but at ADSL prices. Okay. And then it goes up to 100 meg. So Ryan Beach is in here tonight. No, he's in front of the PC. I mean, he said he downloaded half of the internet the first time. At that speed, it is incredible. Okay, it is absolutely incredible. You can go and talk to the proof of concept blog guys. They're streaming Apple TV. So if you do Apple, you download, let's say, Apple movie. It's not like this buffering sort of thing. It just okay, and it starts without it just pulls up in MBs. So it's really something to behold. So obviously these prices are becoming more and more expensive because optical speed is right. And the amount of data that you can consume is also obviously now dramatically higher. But if you look at the prices, you can get it 1449. You can get terabits of data in addition to the 300 gigs of data a month. You get a phone, etc. You can take all your costs together, what you pay today for telecoms, entertainment, etc., and you put that together, you'll be surprised how much that all is. And if you compare it then to this, that now can serve all of those needs, it'll be pretty comparable. So yeah, so you are now the most connected suburb in South Africa, even though it's just a block. But that there will be people in this suburb with 100 meg connections. There will be more 100 meg connections here than you'll get across the enterprises in Sandford, Rosebank, etc. in the homes in Parkhurst. And you can see we've changed the game. Together, we have changed the game. This is happening everywhere at the moment. And the prices that we have set has become the new prices in the marketplace. So the whole South Africa is already benefiting, and that's because of the initiative that you have taken as a community with your residents association.
So, just a quick question. How quickly are you expanding into other suburbs?
Okay, so we've got 42 suburbs that we've released a sort of sign-up website to. Pretty much central and northern Johannesburg, and then down in the Cape. We have to give something to the Cape. And they're in a race. I think Greenside and Memorien's ahead here in Joburg, and Camps Bay is ahead down in the Cape at the moment. But what we're not trying to do is we don't want to take our eye off the ball. We were inundated with requests from other residents associations and residents and people, you know, from Uppington to down in George. So what we did was we created this portal for people to sort of self-service and register and get their community going, so that we could focus on you and make sure we get this Boeing off the ground, or land this Boeing, whichever way you want to look at it, by February, so we don't get distracted. So that's what we did. Yes. Sorry.
Together that you are looking at negotiating on other items that for example, Android discussions with them. Have you communicated as they need to provide a response? Very well. from the uptake of this and the sales support, because there will be a demand on that. So I don't know if my question is, are the ICPs going to really provide the answer to the questions and volume, manage volume questions? And then the next two.
We think so. I mean, we're obviously trying collectively to prepare ourselves as much as possible. But will it be like slick and we'll know all the answers, because we probably won't, you know? But we are preparing collectively with the ISPs, and that's why we have this test phase. We effectively simulate the installation process. That's what we've been doing with all the service providers. Period. We still have some to do this next week or so. There's training, you know, so we're attempting to do that. The ISPs know how to deal with queries. I mean, this is sort of their game. And they will be your first port of call, in effect. But I think we'll probably learn a couple of lessons and quickly hopefully pick up on those questions and just get common answers for them. I mean, I don't know what I don't know at the moment. Sorry. Yes?
First of all, from a technical perspective, does the capacity to actually maintain the network going forward rest with you? So if Joe wants to put an excavator through one of your fibers, what is the sort of turnaround time to do that?
I think we aim to have about, where fiber has gone down, like sort of 8 hours. Okay. It's better than the 72 or the 2 weeks as you currently have. Yes, obviously if a main cable goes down, there's, to give you an idea, there's in one core cable 144 fibers, okay, and we have a number of those. So if it goes like that, to find those ends and to effectively fuse them together, all of them, glass strand by glass strand, that might take a bit more. But we don't anticipate that, but that should not take the network down, because we have redundancy. Okay, so
guys, I know there are a lot of questions. Please, if your questions are general, we'll take them very quickly. I know we started a little bit late, but we do need to move on. Sorry. So please, make sure your questions are general. Neil?
Just a question for us non-Vumatel, really enjoy high speed. Can somebody unpack the jargon that has been going on our website of asynchronous and synchronous and with that? Because it's like Lady Beck was saying, who's going to unpack it for us to make valuable, informed decisions on what kind of things we take? How big is a movie to download? How is the next one?
Okay.
Just simple.
Okay. What we're doing is, and Georgia, when I say we, is we're preparing a getting started guide. So when we do that at in-home installation, to sort of try and unpack it, you to understand all of this sort of stuff. And to really to be able to do it. But it is a bit jargony. I appreciate that. Even, we sometimes don't understand. Chris, sorry.
Sorry. One thing that I don't think you mentioned, as I think would sell to a lot of people, is that you can use this system, the internet, the fiber, instead of a telephone line, and abolish telecom entirely. The call charges I've seen are about half of telecom, and there's either no or a nominal line fee. A nominal line fee may be 50 Rand a month. I don't know what you're paying for telecom line fee, but that's outrageous. Whatever it is, it's utterly outrageous. Only thing I would say to people, be careful. Some ISPs offer the service and some ISPs do not. So if you're intending to do that, you've got to ask the question.
Okay. Last 2 minutes, I'm done. Okay. So as soon as we go live, you're going to see guys are going to come and put little box in your house, plug in a PC, and you're going to see something like this, pretty much this. And you're going to register, and you will be saying, I'm a resident. What are all the services for residents, businesses, education? So you're a resident. You might go to say, well, I'm interested in the internet. Go on then. And you can select, the speeds I'm interested in, or just see a whole list. These are just test services we've got up. You can go to a test service and say, well, I want to read more. And it will tell you more about the service. At the moment, we've just sort of put little bits in. And you can read the terms and conditions, the price, what's the monthly cost, the startup, what's your contract period, what's the cancellation rate, so you can press order. And generally, the internet services, 20 seconds later, you have 100 seconds. And that's how it will work. And you can always go back and say, oh no, wait. I need also, to Chris's point, I want some voice services. And I can go and see what the offerings are for a voice service if I want. If I want triple play, I can do triple play. If I want to do security, I can buy security. I can also go and contribute to your Parkhurst Community CCTV project, if you want. Triple play is basically about getting TV, voice, and internet. So let's say internet alone, internet and voice. No,
because now you're going to be a tech pro.
And you can also get the Proboa membership. I need to do a punt here. You can also just order your Proboa or just register for your Proboa membership here as well to support your community. And then lastly, you will be able to run a speed test and it will look like, sort of like this, just in a very pinky, much more pinky color. And you can see what the speed is on our network, all the way back to Rosebank. So the promise we give you, you can see if it delivers. And then you can run a general one to see what it is over hours and the service providers. So you can see who's providing the service in which way. And you'll see on your Island Parkhurst Facebook pages, the guys are starting to post their speeds, and 100 megs is basically 100 megs, up and down. Okay, so it's not this up to Milan. So okay, so I'm sorry, I've taken way more than I should. You're welcome to come to the shop. If you've got a grey box outside your house, please come and apply for an installation. Speak to Giorgio, and we'll try and resolve your issues.
Just one last one. To what extent do I speed take over and throttle your speed, or use your speed to get to someone else?
They can do, I hand it off to them at a certain speed. What they would do with it from there on is up to them. But you can always see where it sits. Next evolution of this portal will have you wouldn't have eBay or anything like that. We have like a star rating system where you can explain what your quality of service is. You can moan, they can respond. Because at the moment, really what this addresses is price, but it doesn't address quality. They should state whether they contain you 1 to 10. So for example, 10 guys, or 10 guys share effectively that bandwidth. But their fair use policies and all of that sort of stuff should be visible.
Could you please tell us where your office is?
On 15 4th Avenue. 4th Avenue.
It's right next door to the optometrist.
Yeah. Okay.
Great, guys.
Thank you.
Vumatel, thank you so much. Yes.
Yes.
So one, number two, you have a schedule of implementation
Yes.
by flow.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you provide us with a schedule of implementation?
Okay.
Street by street. I think that is.
Okay. So if you go, if you go to the Parkhurst Village site, you'll see there's a link to the schedule, which is a live schedule online. If you click on your blog, it will show you when it's the planned construction start and then finish. And remember, it's construction. It's not the reinstatements on. It's when the real trenching is happening. And that you should be able to get it. You should be able to get it there.
Everything is available. It's been available from day one. So please speak to the guys at Vuma, speak to us as the Residents Association at any time. Neil, thank you so much. Giorgio, hang in there. doing a great job. And yeah, the shop is open until 5 during the week and until 1 on a Saturday. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. We do need to move swiftly along. Thank you so much. Right, may I call James and John? Yeah.
There's some of the service providers, I forgot to say, there's some of the service providers here. Box is here, some of the cool ideas guys are here. So if you want to talk to anybody, feel free to speak to them afterwards and to just get an understanding of their services. Okay,
great.
Sorry, thanks.
No problem. Thanks. Right, now we're going to hear about the security plans for the neighbourhood. We'll all be very aware that there have been a few incidents more than usual in the last month or two. It's something we've had our eye on for a long, long time. But I'm going to hand over to James Bowling, who looks after the security portfolio for the Residents Association. And I'm also going to hand you to John. Right, John McPherson. And Michael, who's a very important person because he's the technical advisor. He's the Ryan of security. So we all remember Ryan, who got Vumatel going. Here we have our new person, who's Michael. Thank you.
While Michael's busy setting up, I just wanted to introduce or set the scene for why we're here and how we got here. I don't want to go too far back into the history of the last 3 years and progressions that it took to get to this point, but at our last AGM in June or July, August, I don't quite remember, but we unanimously, I think it was about 98% vote in for a single service provider for our public space security, as well as a camera solution, so and the fiber rollout as well. So it was pretty unanimous, so we don't want to go back on that. What we do want to talk about is just give you an update and a status report on what's been taking place over the past few months. We did want to push ahead quite quickly. There are a number of reasons why we've been delayed, and we're only at this point now. But we wanted to bring all the different parties into working together, basically. So our neighbours, Parktown North, the PNRA, and the existing organisation that presently resides in the neighbourhood, being ParkSec, which has been very successful in the public space domain. So bringing those three parties together was not an easy task. We were, in many respects, ahead of Parktown North in our thinking and and where we were. So bringing everyone up, getting everyone to agree to kind of where we were at and what our thinking was, and everyone to be on the same page was quite a task. It's taken a few months. We did put out a RFI, which was a request for information from the 7 security providers that it went out to, of which 3 were decent responses. In other words, there was actually a solution that was painted to us with costings and so on. We now finally coming to a final solution or agreement on the RFP, which is the request for proposals, which from that we would select the actual single service provider for the public space between the 2 suburbs. Yeah, so that's where we've got to. We tend to send it out on Friday. Following that, it's another 3 weeks that we've given them to put the proposals together. A lot of them will be amending the RFI that they sent to us, or some of them will be, but obviously to include Parktown North. But bringing all parties together, working together in the same direction, pulling in one direction is obviously of utmost importance, and we felt it was worth it, the delay and the time that we get to this point. But we're finally there, so it's very exciting for us. And we hope to deliver results. Well, we know we will deliver results. It's now really going to be dependent on you guys supporting our initiatives. So we really do ask you to. We've got an online form on our website. Ryan's put it up. So please go online. What we ask of you is to just give us your details, and if you are going to support the initiatives. If you do support the initiatives, obviously us is when we go and talk and we start finalizing contracts with the service provider that we go with, it's going to give us a lot of bargaining power. So we're going to say, well, look, we've already got this many residents that are signed up, ready to commit. So we want some pricing. It's going to benefit you guys. So that's crucial, and we ask you really just to get online, get on board with that. As you did with Vumatel, it's been a big help for them, and we ask the same of you for this.
Any resident, you don't have to be a contributor to parks, any resident can phone the suspicious activity line of Cortac and report suspicious activity. So we can't defer the whole time to the service providers and say, you know, why aren't they doing stuff? We need to. They get so few calls. So if you see anything, you know, if they say you look twice, call it in, and they will go and investigate. I mean, the number of calls received from Parkhurst and Parktown North is in the 10s, not even in the 20s on a monthly basis.
So it's also a complaint from Parkhurst around the front.
Yeah, no, absolutely, but people need to call it in.
Okay, let's carry on. Okay, let's jump into the presentation. So, yeah, just a bit about me, or just why I also chose to get involved with this, is that I come out of the security environment. I've seen derivatives of this model working, and I truly believe it can work. As has been alluded to tonight, participation is key. It's pointless sitting back, waiting. Unfortunately, until an incident, I've seen it time and time again, until people have a gun to their head, God forbid someone's murdered, that's when people jump. And unfortunately, that is too late. It takes that getting involved before, liaising with the various residential associations, communities, and that, but taking that proactive step and getting involved. Unfortunately, yes, money can get you a certain way, but you need to actively get involved, whether it be testing your security system, participating in meetings online, but I also follow the Isla Parkhurst site, and I see a lot of people complain, but very few people choose to get involved, and that's actually key. It's some people who do have time, fine, physically get involved, but otherwise online, speaking to neighbours, getting involved before the incident occurs. So I'm going to go straight into it. And the concept differs to typical security, or a lot of the current models are. It basically relies on having your individual armed response provider providing security, and that's it. Each person is in their own microcosm. So what this concept brings along is public space security, in that you're no longer focusing on your individual house, you're now contributing towards the bigger scheme. And it's basically, as this paragraph alludes to, is that the institutions and the residents cannot act guarding services, full services, understanding the goings on, and then it's a case of planning that attack. So the attack of the incident. So the intention behind it is to obviously go back a step and then start identifying that activity. So as soon as that activity starts occurring, and it is, you can, if people are alert, and unfortunately it is a necessary evil, you can say in today's time. But when leaving your house, when coming back, picking kids up from school, it entails awareness and alertness. So just to see, hang on a second, why is this person on the street corner looking suspicious, looking at me? Phone it in. It won't do any damage. Yes, it may cost you a couple of cents on your cell phone bill, but at the same time, you're now handing it over to a more qualified party that can actually start acting on it. Then obviously preventing criminals from getting to the actual target. So if you pick up activity, as James had alluded to, if that activity is picked up as soon as those criminals start entering the suburbs, whether they'd be coming from Rosebank, they'd be coming from Victory Park, anywhere, they'll now be picked up, and they'll then know, hang on a second, as soon as I started coming into this area, there was a tactical vehicle that approached me. Chances are they're gonna think twice, even before they've even started planning. Then, obviously, you want to apprehend criminals in conjunction with SAPs, and that's an important point. And I'm going to go on to it again. Yes, we are going to be providing the armed response providers, but by no means Is this going to be replacing SAPs? And please don't think that it's going to be that as well. There is still a place for SAPs, and they have to be involved. At the same time, one of the important criteria that I check is the validity of that security company. Because a big thing is, particularly for insurance, but for compliance perspective as well, is that you want to ensure that that provider is fully compliant and meets the necessary criteria. There are a lot of companies now. If you look at the SERA website, the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, they're in the thousands of security companies, and that's why it's an important thing to ensure that the relevant provider, the winning provider, has been vetted, but more importantly, is actually capable. And then, importantly, you want to drive criminal activity outside of the suburb. There's the displacement theory that you kind of push it out like you do if you just push bubbles out, that you're now displacing that to other areas. Yes, you are making it someone else's problem, but that's why joining suburbs is a great idea, is that now collectively you're able to then push it out further. Push it out further until hopefully everyone contributes towards it. So, the services included in the combined security services offering. This is just to mention that it's going to be offered to the individuals as well as communities as well as businesses. The intention behind this is that it's going to be a holistic proposal that this single nominated provider can offer those services. So those vendors that we have approached are obviously capable of offering these services. Just some of them that I'm just briefly going to touch on. Obviously looking out for suspicious activity, people loitering within the area. So as much as it's up to residents, it's also up to these tactical units, proactive units, there's various terminology for them, to look out for these suspicious characters and then interrogate them accordingly. This is also based on the intelligence that they've gathered, whether it be liaising with relevant security providers, police providers, crime intelligence. They're building their own databases. So there's a lot of that involved. Questioning any person regarded as suspicious, and yes, at times and initially it may take them a while to become familiar, and there've been accusations in similar areas that I have been consulted to in saying that they targeting certain people, they targeting domestic workers. It's a case of familiarization and acclimatization with them knowing the actual area. So yes, there may be a couple ruffled feathers, same as with Neil's effort with the trenching. Yes, they're going to become familiar with the general goings on, understanding that, okay, fine. So there's this guarded service that comes here. There's this pool service. This domestic worker works in this area. Obviously looking out, stopping suspicious persons littering public space area. They're going to be checking construction sites. As is known, construction sites are an attraction to criminals. It's very easy for criminals to act as part of builders, or in some cases, criminals are the actual builders. So checking the construction site. So what that entails is going to construction site, depending on the level of cooperation with the builders or the construction team. In some cases, getting the necessary fingerprints, the IDs, so that they know that if they go to this construction site, that these construction workers are valid, they have been checked, and you can immediately verify. So should they see a person walking at night and they can say, okay, I'm in 15th Street, I'm part of this construction team, okay, give me your name, yes, you are listed as being a valid construction worker, fine, you can then move on and carry on. If not, it then gives them further information. And I'm being, yeah, let me, okay. Then removing street vendors, obviously particularly along the street section. I'm still not muted, give me a second. It should be muted.
So the sound from your speaker.
Sound from my
speaker?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's a phone there. Someone's phone.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. Okay, so obviously construction site, street vendors. It's a very also big issue. Getting these people selling dusters, any sort of objects. Again, understanding who these so it won't be a case of immediately throwing them out. It'll be a case of questioning them, getting the information. Fine, thank you very much. Please go on. People collecting recyclers who are on those trolleys as well. They have been known to be information gatherers. So people pay them off to understand routines and wait outside certain houses, and then that they can then understand it. And then, so again, it's a case of understanding it. Importantly, river spray patrols, and that's important that we briefing these providers on. So that part of this proposal entails, and you'll see I'm going to go on to it, that they are going to be patrolling the river area as well. It's important because that makes for a very easy escape route as well as entry route. Historically, typically on these sprayed areas, it's always easy to get into, to get access. No one really identifies it. The minute you put cameras down, the right cameras, you can then effectively conduct surveillance. You've got people on the ground that can then intercept should anyone be picked up and then question accordingly. Also quite important is the camera position, and I'm going to go on to the specific camera placement into how I came about this list. Then unlimited use of the meet and greet service, and again, it's important. Time and time again, if you have an incident and it was, well, why don't you make use of the meet and greet service? Oh no, sorry, I was late or whatever. Use it. If there is a valid reason, and again, it's a case of understanding. Sometimes the meet and greet service, the vehicles can be preoccupied at another area. They can be another incident. If it's raining, if there's lightning, the meet and greet service is going to be late. But the first port of call should be to use it. So again, please make use of it. And also another added benefit is the medical response function. Again, it's available, and that's the one thing that we're going to be checking in terms of those providers if they can offer these services. It's very complimentary because very often, if there's a medical incident, you don't want to start running for a phone. Okay, let me call Netcare or EmergiMed or this provider. What's the number of people typically reach for the panic button? So that's why it's very complimentary, and we also are going to be checking not just is the actual provider saying, yes, we've got an association with Netcare. I'll actually investigate to see to what extent is that agreement, has it been tested, and have there been actual incidents and response thereof? Have the officers also been trained? Have the vehicles got necessary equipment? So, just gone into that. Just some points that have gone into this proposal. As you can see, it's quite a thought-out process. I've got a couple models that I use and modify each of them and spend part of the time customizing it, which forms part of the evaluation criteria to it. So obviously in terms of the documentation and the RFP briefing is set and it's in a uniform manner and it's in the right terminology. It's not information fetched what the Houston Police Department in America did in 1994. So it's not a case of Google and then copy and paste. It's very relevant to the correct environment. The conceptual thinking behind the actual project, as I mentioned, is the public space security, but it's taking it a step further. Now that you've got this, or you're getting this great fiber network, it's a case of integrating everything. So yes, you're going to have the vehicles, you're going to have the foot patrols, you're going to have the river patrols, but now you're actually bringing in cameras. And of what I've seen, the initial proposals from the various vendors, it is pretty exciting technology. But again, you can always sell a solution, so it's a case of vetting it to ensure that it is the right solution, that it's going to work, that it's actually going to deter crime. I'm not saying it's going to completely solve crime, but having the right cameras, the right solution can actually work very, very well in terms of detecting the activity, but also analyzing it to conduct necessary intelligence. The thinking behind placement, and in terms of camera placement, I just want to dispel one rumor or one thinking. The cameras are not going to be covering every single house. That's not the intention. I've consulted to many associations and we get complaints. Well, why isn't the camera looking at my house, looking at my gate? In an ideal world, yes. Okay, so we'll go down and put 3,000 cameras watching everyone's gate. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. The camera placement has been specifically thought of to get the intersections, to get vehicle movements, to get pedestrian movements, to get the major key filter points as well. Also, the specific side of the road that the cameras have been placed on, as well as the height. So you'll see there's a very specific height in there. You want it to be out of arm's reach. You want it to get the ideal height in terms of license plate recognition to capture that, and also to try as much as possible get as far down the road as possible, but at the same time you want to achieve analytical capability. You can say so. It's a mix of that, and that's how that specific camera placement has been thought of. There is also talk of potentially going on streetlight poles. That unfortunately opens up another can of worms in terms of negotiating with Joburg Power, and it has and is being negotiated. At the time of rollout with the nominated provider, we will assess it. Obviously, you don't want to go completely high so that people look like ants, or you now start distorting images, but at the same time, it can potentially be used. So again, it's a mix, and we may make use of street lights. Also, importantly to mention is lighting. So a lot of people say, well, okay, the camera's only going to work at day. No, relevant infrared lighting or additional lighting will be used. The provider may not make use of or go with the assumption that street lights will always be on and working. We all know the reality of that, and in many cases, they're on various timers and then you'll switch faulty. No, so the provider is going to make use of it, make use of lighting. Also importantly is that power is not going to be drawn from the street lights. It's going to be drawn from the nearest house. So again, when it comes to placement, negotiations will then be entered into between the vendor, Parkhurst, or the entity, as well as the owner, just to reach of that power. The equipment does not consume a lot of power. It's typically they're going to be two, maybe three cameras, but the consumption is comparable to a normal set of light bulbs, 2 or 3 light bulbs. So consumption is not going to be excessive on that. In terms of technology and concept, they're not going to be standard cameras. So it's not going to be a camera that where you see in a typical house. These are, it's called, and if you want to look it up, it's called safe city surveillance. It's the latest keyword everyone's going on about, safe city. What it entails is that it's a combination of sensors. So it's not going to be a camera only. It may be in some cases a camera and a motion detector, or in the back end for the security provider, linking into to that house's alarm system. So if that house's alarm system goes up and everything's linked up, the nearest cameras go off. Understanding metrics, that if there are 5 houses alarmed that go off, potentially it's weather. So again, you're basically bringing all this information together to be analyzed to alert. And that's an important thing, because a lot of conventional systems where you see in suburbs, they've got a great camera sitting up there and it's recording. Great, if there's an incident, maybe you'll have footage, but there's not that initial trigger to pick up that activity. So that's how this proposal and how this technology is going to differ. And the concept behind it is that integration. So to bring in all those sensors to conduct relevant intelligence on it before the incident occurs, or as the incident occurs, that relevant people know about it. Analytics versus standard surveillance. Again, standard surveillance will typically just record and that's it. It's not going to alert on much. Maybe you can set a tripwire. Analytics will learn the environment, and if it picks up a person running, if it picks up a person very close to a wall, stationary, it's going to alert. If it picks up a person obviously climbing over a wall, it's going to alert. If it picks up activity after hours or where it doesn't normally see a person, so if it sees a person in the middle of a road, standing there or walking, that's when it will alert. So in terms of analytics versus standard surveillance, that's how that concept fits in. Again, the relevant provider, that's what I'm going to check, is that the relevant surveillance and the relevant analytics that they're using. In terms of authority involvement and partnerships, absolutely key. Not just from SAPs, whether it be neighboring community policing forums, various other entities, crime intelligence, and yes, you can also say security companies. So for company X, if they awarded it, then company Y and Z will also contribute towards it. They'll also, and it's a common trend where all the security companies get together to discuss operational issues. Obviously, they're not going to discuss confidential information, but they discuss various incident information. Ideally, bringing in the Joburg Water, City Parks, Vuma as well, we can also bring in just to work together with it on it. And importantly, mentioning and working with SAP, highlighting the information to them. In terms of monitoring, and again, it's important because very often people have this false sense of security. Okay, camera's up, it's fine, there must be someone behind there watching it. Very often, the camera isn't even turned on, the lens is out of focus, the lens is sometimes knocked off, or the camera's facing the sky. So again, it's important that there are relevant operators watching the information, so they can then act on it. The next one, license plate recognition. So this is a new trend, it's a new technology out there. What this entails is the automatic scanning of every single car coming in and referencing that against police databases. Again, you're using technology here to your benefit. So as soon as a car comes in, it will query between 5 and 10 databases to say, yes, it's listed on this police database, therefore you just had a hijacked vehicle drive into your area. You've just had a stolen car. Again, automatically know about it.
If I can just add to that as well, what we're able to do with those databases, we're actually able to manually load registration numbers as well onto the database, ultimately the flag list. So if we are seeing a vehicle that isn't flagged in any other database, I know it's messing with the parking, if we feel suspicious, we can load it. And every time that vehicle enters our suburb, it's flagged. It's highlighted and flagged.
So it can be a case of whether you've got certain vendors, like I was reading the other day, there was one company where someone had an altercation. You can then list that vehicle to say, should this vehicle drive in again, alert, so that you then know about it. Again, it's all proactive. In terms of challenges, yes, there will be challenges with this, but it's new technology. But it's relatively proven in its individual components and to a limited way integrated together. So there will be challenges, that's where we'll then come in and then start working on it. In terms of what we are looking at data, that's also detailed in the documentation. In terms of compliance, the regulatory information, in terms of regular company information, are they registered tax and that kind of stuff. The privacy concerns. In some residents, I've had it, but people have been concerned that the cameras are going to be looking into people's houses, people's pools. Definitely not. It's going to be focused on the main roads, on the public spaces. In terms of the security company's monitoring environment, obviously important to know exactly what is going on behind the scenes. Is there somebody actually watching cameras, or are they just looking at the alarm signals, or are they just having a cup of coffee waiting to hear a siren going on? So importantly, those are just some of the items. SLA deliverables, we're going to be holding them accountable. That's also part
and you're talking about higher prices for example, in the current ParkSec full package that a lot of us subscribe to. But then when I go back to your provision of services, I mean, it's more expensive because there's cameras, but really all you're improving there is putting 4 men on a foot patrol, from what I can see, because there's 3 vehicles currently in Portac. So take out ABT, take out MIPD, so you're taking another 10 vehicles out, effectively. And you're setting us for a safe for 3 vehicles. I just don't buy that, given what's going on at the moment. That's the current amount of vehicles that we have.
Okay. Based on 1,000, we've got 2,100 households. So with another, if you have 2,100 households supporting this, we'll probably have 10 vehicles. Okay. Because remember, the big part of this expense is the installation of the cameras, the number plate recognition, and so on and so forth. So if you once you've got that installed, then you can add vehicles. There'll be more, the additional households on top of the 1,000, you'll get a lot more vehicles. But remember, what the cameras are doing is hard to put into a vehicle to be comparative because,
yeah, just in terms of performance and that, you can't, as James was saying, you can't say he has a camera, how does that equate to a vehicle? But I do understand what you are saying. Again, the numbers here were indicative. It's up to the provider to firstly understand the area and to give those relevant criteria to match it. So to say currently there are 10 combined vehicles in here, how are we going to match it accordingly?
It's also comparing it to existing suburbs that have looked at a similar solution and looked at how effective has it been. So we've got the old school solution right now, and let's compare it to other suburbs that have adopted a similar, not quite as detailed and as complete as we're looking to proceed to. But it's remarkable the price tag difference and the change in next phase.
James, can I just add to that as well? So we've learned certain lessons in the 6 years with Cortec and Parks. The idea is to do it on a cost-plus basis. So we want absolute transparent pricing from the service provider. And we have done that exercise with Cortec, but you know, it maybe hasn't been followed as carefully as it could. So it's a question of, I don't know how relevant these numbers are. I wasn't that in favour of putting them up because they haven't been tested. And our tender process is 2 stages. So issuing awards is going to be 2 stages. The RFI, we're going to go out on RFP, and then we're going to have best and final. So we're going to take pricing from various vendors and say, well, these guys can do it at X, you are offering it at Y, and then try and not squeeze them because they need to make a profit and stay in business, but to use it as a negotiating tool to try and get down to 650 per vehicle.
The CapEx will run out and the subsidy comes out. The new vendors just pay the initial fee to contribute towards the greater benefit of the other.
Yeah, so look, I mean, not a lot of, certainly with the Cortec solution and the ParkSec solution, there's not a lot of capital expenditure because it's vehicles which are degrading as they drive, and it's fuel. It's 3 shifts of 2 things, but should be cameras, absolutely.
Cameras is also scalable, so it starts off at a number, so it's a minimum threshold. So then, as and when additional people come on board, that they're going to contribute towards those additional cameras. So it isn't a case of getting freeloaders and everyone wait till the end. So it's scalable based on contribution.
But going on to, as we roll out more cameras, the need for, and the effectiveness of the cameras becomes apparent. The need for more and more vehicles starts to fall away. So possibly what could happen is we start to drop some of those vehicles because we don't need them, and we can actually lower the price.
May I also make a point? I just have an important point about the vehicles and all the rest of it. I think that a very important thing to remember is nobody is saying that company A that is selected as the service provider, you absolutely have to now change your home monitoring and so on. So if company A is selected as the preferred supplier, companies B, C, D, E, and F will still have clients in Parkhurst. I'm quite sure that not everybody is going to go with the preferred supplier. And as such, let's say company B still has 300 clients in Parkhurst. They will also have a car. This is not pushing out other companies, but this is just saying in terms of the public space, we need to be able to hold somebody accountable. And the only way to do that effectively is to get a single company to do that. But under no circumstances will other companies not be allowed in the neighborhood. That's certainly not the intention, and we're not able to do that at any event. So there will be more cars, but in terms of the preferred supplier, they will have a given number.
So it just means we had an incident quite recently and there was part of the confusion. We found our supplier and they could not help us when they don't have access, they don't want to have access, they don't allow you to spray. And then we found Quartet and they came to our assistance and did a great job. But the point is that the residents have to be aware of if certain type of incident happens, we need to call company A or company B for the public space or is it a private space.
What we want to have is one company being public space, and that's the
So
solution.
what I'm saying is that if you want more of call,
Absolutely.
if they're out on the road,
Correct.
call company A because they have a public
Exactly.
space card, if the overmall, I'm going to call company B because they have a
Additionally, for the sprays in particular, we will have feet on the ground patrolling, as that's what we want to build into the offering. On top of that, thermal cameras for picking up movements, hot bodies, patrolling the sprays, and then those officers can respond to that. So yeah, we do want to take on the sprays in a big way and make them safe for us to move around.
I think what's quite important to know is you talk about other suburbs. What other suburbs? What's the impact been of having cameras and what has it done to the crime rate? I think that's an important point to sell it to our community. And we've heard nothing of that at all. It's spoken about in passing or what other suburbs have done. In which suburbs, where, who's in charge of them, and what's happened to crime?
Okay, so to be as politically correct about that, to give you some examples, you look at the Lone Hill area. When Lone Hill started implementing cameras, crime reduced between 65 and 75%, purely because the pure presence of those cameras. That was just by installing cameras. If you take Dunkeld, CSS Tactical installed cameras.
That wasn't smart cameras either, was it?
No, Lone Hill, and that's what I said, purely installation of a camera, so just having a presence. Taking it up a level, CSS Tactical took it up a level, they installed the initial fiber network for cameras only and an intelligence system. Took the crime stats down between 85 and 95%. So they are still seeing a lot of follow home, not a lot, but now seeing follow home robberies, which are difficult to try stop, but 85 to 95%. You look at a company like 24/7, also put in additional systems, additional vehicles, intelligent vehicles, cameras in the vehicles, intelligence behind it, bringing those stats down as well. So, and that's what I said, it's a combination of that. You look at ADT with the palm pilots, again, giving the officer the ability to capture the information, send it back, immediate checking. License plate recognition, you look in Linden, they're going to roll out 22 license plate recognition cameras. I think they're on about 4 or 5. Again, referencing that against the live data. I don't know the exact stats, but that has drastically drawn crime down so that they know that a suspicious vehicle has been drawn in before the man in the back loses his arms.
Can I just quickly ask, I'm sorry, John, your arm, hopefully survive.
It's bugging me.
So just to quickly also highlight, looking at on our borders, you talk about our neighbouring suburbs, Coburg Park, they have already implemented, they've got a 62% buy-in by the community. We're talking at 18% now? 18% in Park Coast. We're hardly able to really facilitate any public space security. They are at 62% and they're just launching. Dunkeld, also on our borders. Parktown North alongside us. A lot of the communities around us are starting to implement what you mentioned just now.
License plate recognition. Analytics.
In what's the suburb? Linden. Thank you. They're all around us. What that means is they're pushing crime out. Where's the crime going to go? To the next weakest spot, which is us right now. And that's a lot of the reason why our crime has gone up, because other suburbs are implementing solutions that are working. So what we need to do, and can only hope to do, is push crime out of our suburb. And the more we can buffer it up, the better for all of us. Yes,
yeah.
Sorry, at the back.
I was just saying, you mentioned the move from for a long time. Let's say something that I'm not understanding the comparison because they're completely different models.
Yeah, but just in terms of technology.
And that was 6 years after the start of the benefit, which were initially from 20 years old, maybe 30 motorbikes, 40 bicycles, and 80 football. That was exposure. That was very apparent for some of the cameras. If you compare it to the camera.
No, but that's what I mentioned. Yeah, so just.
How do you know that it's fancy cameras or just the fancy camera? Then you can say the main fancy cameras and still have
What you want to do, this is what you mentioned earlier was 65% reduction in time odd with the dummy cameras versus 85 to 95 in dummy code with proper working cameras. Because what they're going to do is they're going to test the cameras out. Ultimately, they're going to work out that they actually are dummy or not working or not smart or intelligent cameras. When they are smart and they're working and the respondents actually are catching these guys, that's when people just then learn. Don't come into the suburb. This is not, crime does not pay in the suburb.
Something happens at our house and the vehicle goes there and then they knock over another house. Full reorganization. So one of the issues with having a single system provider in my opinion is the prevention that because the thing is at 100, but you just have one reduces like the efficacy a little bit. In my opinion, we've gone from that to that.
There is, just to jump in with that, there is also quite a, particularly when there's a live incident, and I've seen it, I've been in control room. Security companies do call each other and they notify them. They said, we've just had a hijacking, cut off this road, you cut off that road, and that is limited coordination. But again, if there is one provider, imagine this, one operator sees something suspicious, speak to that station next to him, quickly get a vehicle to intercept a vehicle over there, get another vehicle as opposed to them phoning. So that's why it then makes sense to go ahead with that consolidated provider, because you can then coordinate that attempt quicker.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to ask is on the SLA, they're not the ability to do it on the actual personnel themselves and staff checking because recently there was an incident where the ADT guy was
involved in the incident.
Caught on the camera,
yeah.
And they still managed to get away with it. I think it's about staff checking, about sort of where's the guy come from? Is a new joiner? Is there a pattern here?
Yeah. So
part of it actually on the SLA.
Completely, and it is, and it's actually in our RFP as well. All of the guys, well, all of the serious players offer polygraph tests up front when they take on the staff, and every 2 months on an ad hoc basis, so that no one knows when they and that's as much as one can do, really. And obviously, then looking at the fact that
in the banking community, you've got a database of these.
Yeah. So
correct.
The security industry is actually looking at formulating something, but taking it a step further, what I've done with clients of mine is you start running analytics on the information. So you start saying, why is this officer responding to this house constantly? And it happens, they learn digipad codes and that, and through that analysis as well, you can just say, hang on a second, why is this officer always who's on this shift responding to this house? So you can identify that as well to then understand it and then quantify it better.
That's why it's crucial as well. Part of the solution is monitoring the installation once it's in place. It's not just putting it up and saying, right, we've got the cameras up, great, crime's gone. It's not the case. We need to monitor, we need to ensure that the service level agreement is adhered to, that it's maintained, tracking the data, and that's where Michael comes into it as well. It's crucial, making sure that all the data is correlated and any information we can draw from it is utilized.
Can I ask a question? You were talking about SAPs a little bit earlier on. What you've described is a purely private enterprise. Does SAPs come into it, and are they able to come into it? And do they have the resources in the first place?
Yeah.
Are they more of a help than an hindrance?
They're there, and it's up to the security provider to engage with them as much as possible. Obviously, there's a limit, and you get different stations that do contribute. I see variations from Morningside to Sandton to Parkland to Rosebank, in that it is difficult. I'm being honest, but the vendor, the nominated security provider, has to engage with them and report all incidents to them. Obviously, they're not going to get stats back, but it's important that definitely to report all incidents, to try get the investigating officer. And again, that's where I know CORE, CSS, 24/7, ADT, they've got people that actually run the cases through. And they can then see, fine, suspect was arrested. He's been kept in cells. His case has been up, or his case is up. He was dismissed, or case lost. Fine, let's get documentation going again. So and that's why I mentioned it's absolutely imperative. By no means is this entity going to operate on its own in its own little army. Definitely not.
And just to expand on that, we do Captain Van der Moot is very supportive of the scheme. And we do liaise with them. They attend the CPF, community policing board meetings, and that is a requirement that they get involved. But it is very much a resource thing. I mean, our precinct stretches to Hillbrow, to Sandton. It's quite a big precinct.
Every Tuesday morning, all the security providers in the suburbs, I think it's about 10 suburbs, meet at the Parkview police station. Colonel Mudley's there almost all the time, Captain McKee's and a few of the other officers, relevant officers, and then all the heads or the managers for the different security companies. We all pool information and work on means that we can combat crime and come together, collective, doing some on the spray together, pooling resources and so on. But the reality is Parkview Police Station does not have the resources. Colonel Mudley is a hell of a nice guy and he means well, and he wishes he could do more. But the reality is he just doesn't have the resources. And I don't know how we can facilitate that. So what we need to do is actually beef up our private security and do more of the work that they should be doing in reality. What we're also looking to do is through this the chosen service provider is introduce more of a detective. So we actually start doing detective work as well, follow through on incidences, assist the police in bringing the case to court and actually convicting the criminals. And some of the security providers have a very successful detective agency and part to the business.
Yeah, just in the SLA, is there going to be anything about how actually you incentivize and reward fairly the actual staff members? I mean, I really wouldn't feel comfortable outsourcing something to a company that's going to try and pay its workers the very minimum and expose them to the maximum amount of temptation. I'd like them to be incentivized to actually keep us safe and for that to be upfront.
It's in our RFP. We need to know exactly what each level of officer is paid, and all the good guys, funny enough, are always paying the guys more, which correlates exactly with what you're saying. Yeah.
But also, just to add on to that, yes, the SLA will have deductions, but at the same time, bonuses for arrests and that kind of stuff as well. So we're not going to be penalising them only. It will be a case of rewarding them where it's due.
But yeah, I don't think it addresses your sort of fair employment practices question. But again, as James says, if you look at the sort of serious guys, they're paying substantially more than, and the reason is because you're getting professional ex-military, ex-police, properly trained guards.
Yeah, I mean, I like that to be explicit in there.
Yeah,
don't check this fine.
Good.
That's one thing following on there is that I believe for every security wire income, that the company is only as strong as its weakest link. And the point is that we're living in a very unskilled, quite dysfunctional world right now. Not only here, the world right now. And what concerns me with the little man who's actually behind the wheel, not the inspectors, because you're meeting at CEO level and you're negotiating at CEO level. What about the guy in the actual raw control room and the guy behind the wheel? To what extent are you looking as an incentivization, but also skill levels? And are you investigating?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's part of the RFP. We need to know exactly what the training is, what the qualifications of each officer. There's again the SERI accreditation, so there's certain levels which they have to have in order to get grade C, grade D, whatever the case might be. But then each security company as well offers a certain set of training on an ongoing basis to those guys.
I think if you've been on the streets, you would have seen through the different service providers a different level of competency by the guys in the vehicles, and it actually indicates the type of training that comes from those different providers.
At the back.
Just curious, why the
Bearing in mind that the foot patrollers, they're not going to be focused on the streets predominantly, and again, that was indicative. They're going to be focused more on the Spruit, as well as, along the actual commercial streets, but the main focus is that's what cameras are going to do, because foot patrollers typically sleep. They can only be in one point, looking at one point at one time. So they're not highly effective. You can rather use cameras, but again, it's up to the vendor to say, we think you should rather put in 5 or 6. But the number was purposely low.
So sorry, just to expand on that, what in terms of the procurement approach, what we have done is given them a base case to which they must respond, so that we can compare each of the vendors against each other on a common baseline. Once we have whittled it down to the best service offering at the best price, we will then get involved in more definitive solution design to say more foot patrols, less foot patrols, and we'll then craft the most appropriate solution.
When you've got cameras, you don't need car guards.
So let me address the car guards, because ParkSec had the initiative of bringing in vetted people that had been checked, etc. And there was quite a lot of resistance within the community, and we then showed that initiative, despite the fact that it did actually lead to a reduction in vehicle theft in the area. The problem is it's public space. You cannot remove people from the public space unless they are breaking the law or infringing the bylaw. So car guards that are walking in the street, look, they're not allowed to be drunk in public, they're not allowed to be intimidated, but they are private individuals. So as much as we as a community can walk up and down our streets, so can the car guards, as long as they're not breaking the law.
The thing is, as much as they can be there, and they can be on the street, if they are acting as security guards, in other words, asking for money to look after your car, they need to be SERA accredited, and they need to have a SERA card on them. So if all of those things are failing to comply to legislation, and the police and the security providers are able to remove them. So in that way, very few of the guys who ask any of them for a SERA card, and they ain't going to show it to you. So majority of them.
Something like that, and they're all down. So anyone actually checking these guys out? They used to know a lot of these guys.
There was initial car guards, going back now in time, there was a MRPD car guards solution that was in place. We tried to get involved in that, unfortunately there's resistance from MRPD. There's a lot of politics to it, so rather we're focusing on the solution right now, and then we can roll out, we need to just make these steps.
How much of the business owners and on call, how much of they buy into this? Because they have a massive impact on
huge. And responsible for a lot of the car.
I know it's not an exact pricing structure, but if you looked at business compared to residential, it was pretty close on that side. I think the business owners need to be approached and almost come in as specific partners of this whole concept, because this was bringing a lot of traffic in.
Couldn't agree with you. Business owners have been very slow to get involved.
We've reached that anything.
Certainly. We've approached them time and time again. And
what cards in our hands, at the end of the day, they're here because we support them. So if we can, as a community, we put pressure on the business owners to actually act, all the better. Again, there's only so much one or two people can do. So if everyone pulls together, we're that much more powerful. That's a great thing. Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah.
suggesting that most of the crime is committed by perhaps foreign nationals. Obviously, we do know that it is quite difficult to track certain people and certain crimes do happen because they're not recorded. I was just wondering, in particular, I know myself and Karen, we posted on our podcast that we had incidents and they did involve the room sellers. And I was just wondering, in terms of the crime that is happening, could SAF perhaps patrol and have a look to see of these guys that are in the area, how many of them are legal or illegal, and how many of them are involved in crime?
What one does through proactive security is start profiling people. So what you'll find is you've mentioned the broom seller. He'll probably be in the suburb quite frequently because that's one of his areas of market. And there are so many other people in a similar position. So what you start doing is building up a profile. What you do is use a morpho-touch machine, which is a digital fingerprint. You take pictures and you use, along with SAPs and the private security companies, you start building up profiles of individuals that frequent your suburb. And if there is a background to them, then you know and you can respond to it accordingly. But if they become a problem to the suburb, you've got a profile on them and you know who it is. And that's how you start to bring down the crime as well.
Because I did speak to the whale guy when I was, trying to find out who had come into the yard. And I did ask him where he's from, and they said that he's from Vumatel. Obviously, was not in a position of authority to say, do you have legal papers? And obviously, they do know each other, and some information would get around to say such and such a person, stole an item from his house.
Again, it comes down to understanding and incident analysis and intelligence. So tracking a trend to say that they're always stopping this guy who's covering these particular streets. Okay, there was an incident in this area. Go back to who was questioned in which area, start putting a map together. And as James was saying, that's where that detective bit comes in. So you start running that kind of intelligence to understand it, and then you can say, okay, so there was this broom seller, and then he will know that this vehicle came in potentially. So again, it's a case of putting everything together. There's a limited extent as to how far we can go in terms of the investigation. We can't ask for papers, but we can try and gather as much information as possible.
In terms of the RFP, we incorporated the recapitalization of people. We can incorporate the technology 5 years down the line, 2 years down the line, and also
bear in mind, you're built on the backbone of fiber, so the cabling that's fine. Poles are going to last a very long time. The stuff that's it's going to need changing is the cameras and the DVRs. That's the majority of the stuff that really need to change. That is it's about 30%. That's what we funded. The security company funded on our street, because that's the stuff every 2 years or so you're going to need to change. But it's a small part of it, and that's that's built into the pricing.
And it also relates to the open book pricing, and we're looking at a initial 3-year contract.
I just obviously don't want to go through the initial capital.
No, absolutely.
That's a good point.
Same process you're going through now to reassess the provider.
That's a good point. Yeah.
2 questions. The one is, I hope you will identify unaccompanied dogs running on something. It sounds like
potentially, it isn't like a definite, but you can say that there's an object without a human walking around. It's not that recognition.
Well, I think it's put up a lot of fences to keep mind of it.
Yeah.
Now, the other question is, that you don't get also. That is the example of stopping people in the road. I mean, this lady did raise it. Yeah. But if I go out of my dog in the house, what's happening is the cop came to me, I would point out to him which way is home and how I can jump.
I mean, that's a very important point, because obviously only the police have the right of search and seizure, although it can affect citizens' arrest. The other point is that there's nothing preventing. I can come up to you in the road and ask you what you're doing. Whether you choose to answer me or not is up to you. But when you have people in an intimidating vehicle with bulletproof vests and big guns, it can also serve to disrupt crime.
And if you choose not to answer and not give a valid reason for yourself being there,
there's a reason behind it.
Then
kind of raise a flag, and
I can follow you around.
To be checked out. Additionally, what we haven't mentioned today or tonight so far is the contributions from residents to the public space security will be tax deductible.
Oh, hang on.
We're busy trying to set it up, but it should be.
So we're setting up SafeParks as a public benefit organisation. We are trying to structure in such a way that the contributions will be tax deductible, but there's no guarantee.
It's been done elsewhere, so it should be able to. Okay. So what you will be doing, and we are still defining exactly how it's going to work out, but on behalf of the residents, you're not going to be contracting directly with the security company. We're going to be contracting with the public space, with the whichever body that we, if it's either the RA or the SafeParks, whatever the case might be. And that's who you're going to be paying your contribution to. That company is then going to in turn pay the security company.
Does exist. Yes. So currently, I mean, in terms of the coming together, currently Parksec is still running the public space scheme, and that is going to merge into the SafeParks initiative with the RAs. Currently, when we started out, we didn't want the risk, having looked at the cap schemes and the other suburb schemes, of having to pay the service providers. So we said, right, you contract directly with the subscribers, the contributors. That model is going to change so that you control the fees.
Because if there's lack of performance, you withhold payments. And it's the best way to get attention.
What's the timescale from literally from tonight to physically?
On Friday, the RFP goes out.
Yep.
3 weeks for the proposals. They come in. Another week to 2 weeks to go through them and then finalize the selection. From that point on, to
look realistically, with Christmas. No, we I would say March at the latest. March.
The other key thing is when you look at the area, there's a lot of streets, there's a lot of access points into Parkhurst.
No, not actually. There's only 15 for Parkhurst alone. And if you include Parktown North as well, I think there are 2 extra access entry points.
But the key thing is when you've got 3 vehicles trying to go up and down these streets and actually cut down the access points, it's too many for those 3 vehicles. What I think should be considered
is 4 vehicles.
4 vehicles. In real terms, if you restrict the access, if you secure the perimeter so that you can actually control who comes in and who comes out, it actually makes it a damn sight easier.
So you build it
for people to actually control what's actually going on in the suburb.
Are you suggesting booming? Is that what you were saying?
Booming.
In an ideal world, yes. Good luck in trying to put booms down, particularly now. That regulation, it was there, it started. You had to reapply. You've got to buy the actual road. You've got to.
In which case, you need to put more vehicles on the streets. Because the bottom line, if you've got 4 vehicles with all of that time to go through, it's never going to happen.
That's why the cameras are there.
I understand.
Yeah, so it's cameras. Look, in some cases, it's more combination. There'll be response vehicles as well as proactive vehicles. So very often, vendors may supplement the existing vehicles with additional proactive. A lot of the companies work with those models as well. So that's probably what will take it up to 6, 7 vehicles, 8 vehicles.
So can I just jump in there? I mean, obviously, the solution design is going to be hugely controversial. I mean, those that say pro cameras, anti cameras, more vehicles, less vehicles. We've got to put one solution in. If you've got input, absolutely contact us and come and sit down and give us input.
Yeah, engage and
we're very open. So you know, the idea is to be inclusive, open.
At the end of the day, we need to put a solution in, and we are pulling on the resources that we have and professionals like Michael, so to put the best solution that we believe is possible. At the end of the day, we've been mandated to do something, and we're trying to do it. And we're trying to put the best solution. We're not trying to, value for money. Sorry, at the back there, you were.
When you guys implementing this camera, because they're running what we're speaking about now, and I just got to feel from the
It's been stolen.
13th Street. Just now.
Funny enough, 13th Street, I met with someone yesterday on 13th Street in particular. There's you've got 32 households, I believe, that are, and I hope are you on the WhatsApp group?
No.
For 13th Street? Well, you should be. Huh?
Oh, are you not in the,
No.
Has it got tracking, the discovery?
They actually called me to ask me, my tampering with the they were
outside.
What vehicle? Color?
Terrible. Colors are just, yeah, it's like a red flag for these guys. But, I'm sorry.
Right, are there any other questions? Great, thanks, thanks for those that have stayed. And yeah, if you've got any questions.
Sorry,
feel free to
two things, please. Before you go, can you please all go onto plantpost.org.za and register? You'll also be able to sign a moral commitment, just like we did for Vuma, for the public space security. And we're also implementing a new membership management system where you'll be able to keep tabs of what's going on in terms of your particular life. So please log on. And then also please don't forget, book tickets to come to our picnic, 23rd of November. Come and enjoy some bubbly in the park and get each other.
Please tell your friends and neighbors and everyone on the street, just get everyone motivated and participate in this.
That's a good